So around 2 years ago, I saw something and had an oh my god, I can't believe this isn't a thing yet moment. You know those ideas that make you go, oh my god, I can't believe I didn't think of that. That's such an obvious idea. So an example of that would be something like band-aids. You get hurt, you need to shield the injury, you put band-aids on. Another example is deodorant. You smell bad, use this. And for the longest time, I always thought that every single idea like that had already been made and it was impossible to compete. Well, now it's 2 years later, and that idea is something that hundreds of people have bought, and a lot of them have bought it like multiple times. This video is the story of how I turned that idea into a reality, how I got customers, how I made the product, every single mistake I made, and every single lesson that I've learned from this business. And I have to say, trying to make this business work was the hardest thing I have ever done in my entire life. No exam in uni or school even compares. So the product I came up with is actually chewing gum. But not the normal chewing gum you think of. It's chewing gum that's 10 times harder than normal chewing gum. Now you might be thinking, why would anyone want to chew chewing gum that's super hard? That sounds stupid. And honestly, if I didn't see one specific video, I would have thought the same thing. So the video that I saw that sparked the idea for chewing gum that's hard was a clip of Dr. Andrew Huberman on Andrew Schulz's podcast. They were talking about how people in Hollywood were chewing on this hard plastic device thing to get a better looking jawline and facial structure, and how eating hard foods makes you develop more aesthetic facial features compared to eating like modern soft foods. Now I don't know about you, but this information literally blew my mind. I had no idea this was even possible. So I looked around for a bit, and pretty much all the options for something like this was this hard plastic chewing device that looked kind of like a dog toy. And it was kind of off-putting, to be honest. I don't want to chew something like that, and to be honest, there's something kind of icky about having to chew something, spit it out, and chew the same thing the next day. And I felt like there's no way that I'm the only one that feels that way about this. Surely there's other people that don't want to chew the plastic thing as well. So at the time, I was trying to come up with a product idea or any business that I could start, and I thought that chewing gum that's hard would be the perfect solution to this. People are already comfortable chewing gum, so the market size would be a lot bigger as well. It's such an obvious solution as well. You want to look better? Just chew this chewing gum. Like, think of all the people that use lotion or cream. Why do they use it? It's to look better. This idea also does the same thing. And since it helps you look better, that means it will be placed in the beauty category instead of the chewing gum category. So it can be priced at beauty prices as well, so like $30-ish instead of like $3 for chewing gum. It's also something I thought that pretty much all teenagers in high school could be chewing. So with all that in mind, I decided to try and make this thing a reality. And can I just say, if you told kid me that loved chewing Hubba Bubba chewing gum, that you would have a business that makes chewing gum, I would be so shocked. To be honest, I'm still kind of shocked it actually happened. Like seriously, chewing gum? That's such a random thing to do in life. Actually figuring out where to get the ingredients for chewing gum took a while, but eventually I found a company that sells gum base and ordered a bunch of samples. I also looked at all the ingredients that normal chewing gum brands have on the back, and pretty much ordered every single one of those. And there was like 2 to 3 competitors at the time who also sold something similar. I also ordered their stuff so I could see what already exists. There was things that pretty much every single competitor was lacking in. Like the biggest competitor, their flavor lasted around 30 seconds, and after that you were just left with this small rubbery piece of chewing gum that smelled pretty bad as well. Also, it was more putty-like and hard instead of being like chewing gum and hard. Another one had no flavor. There was another one that was actually pretty good, but it was too small. It took around 186 variations of trying to figure out the recipe, but eventually we got it to a place where I can confidently say that it's pretty much better than every other competitor out there. The entire thing took around 6 to 7 months to launch. From finding suppliers for every single ingredient, getting samples, the packaging, getting more packaging samples, then actually putting in the bulk order and waiting for that to come by ship as well, and also making the website and anything else that was needed. It took so much time and effort to come up with the perfect recipe because I knew that the number one priority was that it had to taste good. If it didn't taste good and it was just hard, people might try it once or twice, but they wouldn't keep using it. And that means they wouldn't buy it again. Plus, it had to be better than all the other competitors. Because if it wasn't, what's even the point of trying to compete with a worse product than everyone else out there? I think for the next thing, I could get it done a lot faster, but for some things, you can't really speed up how long it takes. Like if something is coming from ship via China, you can't really speed that up. Okay, so now the product is made, I have the website set up, everything's ready to go. How do I get customers? The first thing I tried was TikTok. And what I didn't realize before starting this was that this product is insanely hard to make videos for, since the main type of videos you can make with this are mainly education based. So you're stuck trying to teach people about why they should even care. Or you have to make videos like 10 things to do if you want to glow up, which by the way are super fucking awkward and cringe to make. And there's no real action shot you can have with the product. So an example of an action shot would be something like using gua sha on your face to try and look slimmer. Or something like a freeze-dried candy time lapse, where there's actually something going on and there's like a before and after, or something happens. But with the jawline gum, there's no real action shot. Like, what are you meant to do? Take a piece of gum and chew it on camera? There was a few videos that got like hundreds of thousands of views, and there was even some with millions. And people even commented about how this was such a, oh my god, I can't believe this didn't exist yet, what a great idea. But you know the thing is, even with all the views and all the positive comments, the amount of sales we got from TikTok was pretty much zero. Also, since this was a high price product in like a low price category, a lot of people were really not comfortable with that. There was also a bunch of people that commented against that. And since TikTok is location based and I live in Australia, it didn't really show the videos to people in the USA. And that's where the main target market is. I also tried Facebook and TikTok ads, but they were really expensive and they weren't profitable. Another thing I tried was affiliates. I contacted so many people to become affiliates that I actually got banned from DMing on TikTok. And the thing about that is, people barely even reply. And even if they do reply, it barely even works out. Like, one person said they charged $2,000 for just one post, and that would mean if we want to break even, we would need to sell at least 600 units from that one post. And that's just break even, not even making a profit. Plus, it would take like 2 months to even make that amount. And it was obvious they wouldn't even be able to sell that many units. One affiliate was pretty good, but eventually they felt like they weren't getting enough of the pie and they left. But what they don't realize was that they were actually making more profit than we were actually making. There was another influencer I contacted to become an affiliate, and they ended up starting their own competitor gum. And I swear they got their idea from my email. I feel like getting to the escape velocity stage for that is really hard, since people don't want to promote something that isn't really known yet. But once it passes a certain point and people start hearing about other creators making a ton of money from being affiliates of something, they jump on. Like one of the biggest brands on TikTok Shop, like Guru Nanda and their teeth whitening strips and pulling oil. It makes sense if you think about it from their perspective, because why would they promote something that's really unknown when they can promote something that's already popular and make the same amount of money? So those are all the things that didn't work. The one thing that actually did work was selling on Amazon. Amazon was great since people were actively searching for jawline gum and they already knew what it did and how it helped. And now they're just looking for which one to buy based on the options available. So to get some traction on Amazon, I ran Amazon ads, and for the first month or so, they weren't really that profitable. But after a while, the organic rankings started to increase and we started getting even more sales because of that. Also, I've noticed that after getting the 50 plus sales in the past month or 50 plus repeat purchases tag, the conversion rate goes up. Same thing with getting a higher star rating and more reviews. Like for Amazon ads in Australia, in the past 30 days, they've gone like a 7 to 8 times ROAS. So ROAS is your return on ad spend. So if I'm spending $1 on ads, I make back $7 to $8. And normally if you have 7 to 8 times ROAS, you would increase your ad spend as much as possible and scale your business to the moon. But the thing is, the Australian market isn't really that big enough to even spend the current budget. And Amazon USA ads are so incredibly expensive that you lose money. Which is why our sales from Australia are more than double of the USA. Theoretically, if you can spend more in ads than your competitors' profit margins, you win. But it doesn't really work like that in reality. If their cost per customer is way lower and yours is higher because of things like star rating or organic ranking, they can still win. Plus, they can also have more money to outlast you while you're unprofitable in ads. So now, let's go over the sales numbers, how many units have been sold, and the profit margin. So the main place we sold this was Amazon. And most of the sales came from Amazon Australia and there was some from Amazon USA. So this is Amazon Seller Central. And if I go here, I can see how much has been sold in the past year. So in the past 1 year, we've sold around 604 units and the total revenue is $24,900, which is not bad. Also, this is the conversion rate, 8.76. I've also noticed that the conversion rate is actually a bit higher recently since it's more established now. So it's around 16.46%. And in the past 30 days, there's been 73 units sold and around $3,000 in revenue. It peaked in June, July. Same thing for USA. So on Amazon USA in the past year, we've sold around 239 units, which is $7,260 US. So that brings the total to 239 plus 604. Plus we've also sold around 60 units on our website and eBay and Etsy. So plus 60. So around 903 units. Also, these are the Amazon ad metrics as well for the past month. So ROAS of 7.95, which is pretty good. And these are the ad results for Amazon USA if you're interested. See, the ROAS is very bad. So that's how many units we've sold overall. Now let's look at the profit margin. Okay, so on Amazon Australia, we sell it for $40 and it costs around $3.43 to make. FBA shipping is 7.09. Amazon fees on top of that is around 11%, which is 4.4. And that means our profit is around $25.07, which is 62.69% gross margin. And this is how much we get from Amazon when someone buys, $28.5. And the net profit is around $22, which means the net margin is around 55.19%. One of the things that's not included in this is the labor cost. And oh my god, does it take a lot of labor to make gum. So if you want to start selling on Amazon, it costs around $40 to start selling on Amazon Seller Central. And ideally, you'd want to get a trademark and a barcode. And also, you'll have to get FDA registration if you're a food product. So the trademark helps you sign up for Amazon Brand Registry, which is the content you see underneath the photos. And the barcode is something you need when you make the listing because you can't really add it on later. And you can get the barcode from the GS1 website and nowhere else. Also, if you want to sell in the UK or the EU, you'll need to sign up for the VAT. And it's really super annoying. It took around 2 months to get the UK VAT set up, and signing up for the EU VAT is even more annoying. Plus, they take so much fees that it's probably not even worth it to sign up in the start and just focus on USA first. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but every Amazon product photo is like the same style. And that's not a coincidence, it's like a requirement from Amazon. So you take a picture of your product, cut it out in Photoshop, and add a white background. And if you want to send stock to Amazon FBA, there's a lot of delays during like the peak seasons, such as Prime Day or the end of the year, and they don't really accept new stock after October 19th. Also, here's some interesting observations. The most amount of sales we got on Amazon Australia was when our main competitor, Jawliner, was priced at $50 and we were priced at $40. After Jawliner reduced their price down to $40, the sales kind of went down, but they were still pretty decent. So I tested increasing our price to $45 and sales pretty much tanked, which is why I changed it back to $40, because more orders also means more repeat purchases. In general, you should use Amazon USA for the base listing because that's the hub. If you want to win on Amazon, you'll need to be using their FBA service and you'll need to get some reviews so you get those stars. Because how you meant to win against a competitor that's already established, has like 3,000 reviews, 3,000 units sold in the past month, Prime shipping, and your product is like brand new and you have no reviews, you take like 2 to 3 weeks to ship, and your design's bad. You need to have something that makes your offer different. It could be quantity, price, design, flavors even. One of the things that worked for Magic Gum was the design. We spent like 2 entire days working on this design to make sure it stands out when people search for jawline gum. Like we tested it against all the other competitors side by side, tried changing the colors and picking the ones that stood out the most. Also, it says jawline gum because there's this search tool in Amazon which tells you how many searches are being done for this particular category. And for this category, jawline gum was the highest. And hard chewing gum was also pretty high, and that's why that's there. Let's go over the mistakes now. The biggest mistake was going with this box. So I thought that going with like a more premium feel, like the iPhone box or the Tabs box would be helpful, since it helps it stand out. But in the end, nobody could even tell what the hell this was. And it's really obvious when you hold it side by side compared to the pouch. Like this looks more like a box of chocolates or something. And with this, you know exactly what this is. Like it looks really good and feels premium in real life. But when you look at it online, and it's like side by side next to competitors, you have no idea what this is. Which is why we switched to the pouch later. And that's when the sales started increasing. Second mistake, speed. Not being first with the pouches and not switching to them fast enough meant that a lot more competitors popped up. Let's say we were like 4 months late from switching to boxes to pouches. We also lost all those repeat orders that we could have gotten from those people. And it becomes hard to rank on Amazon since there's more competition. Like why would anyone buy your product when there's like 5 other competitors with more than 1,000 ratings and have like 500 bought in the past month or 1,000 bought in the past month when you only have like 5 ratings? In the long run, I doubt that it would have worked out because we can't really produce that many units. But still, even though every startup advice includes speed and how you should be fast, it's not until you experience it that you truly understand. Third mistake is manufacturing. So we decided to make the gum ourselves instead of outsourcing it to something like a Chinese factory because honestly those were pretty expensive and we wouldn't be able to customize the product like how I wanted. It took like an entire year to optimize every single thing about how to make gum. Like at the start, the max we could make was like 4 boxes per day. And it would take like 50 minutes just to wrap every individual piece like here. This was all done by hand for every order. After switching to pouches, we didn't need to wrap the pieces anymore, so the production efficiency jumped up to like 8. And we slowly ended up getting better and better, and I started noticing all the different things that could affect how the gum turned out, like the temperature of the oven, the timing, how it would bend after I took it out the oven. We tested so many different oven settings and timings to figure out the perfect one, and by the end of it we could make around 15 to 16 units per day. Mistake 4 was margin. The actual margin of the boxes was way off from what I estimated at the start. Like, I didn't realize there was going to be so many other expenses and tiny fees that would add up. Also, something I didn't realize was that the cogs are essentially double, since you have to save money to buy the next batch. Also, shipping costs are a lot. Mistake number 5 was not being on Amazon soon enough. I should have been on Amazon since the first day of launching. Number 6 is underestimating how much physical work it would actually take to make the gum in large batches. Number 7 is not realizing how difficult it would be to make content for something like this. And number 8 is not having enough stock in Amazon, so it ended up going out of stock. So first, you lose the sales that would have happened. So if you sell like 4 per day, and you're out of stock for like 5 days, that's 20 sales you just lost. And if each sale is like $25, you just lost $500. Plus, it also takes like a week or two to get back to the same sales velocity, and for the stock to become prime ready. Now, let's go over the lessons I've learned. You can just decide to do something and figure out how to make it work. Like, I still can't believe you made a physical product with a barcode and everything. Like, you always see on other products the barcode and the nutrition label, and you never really think too much about it. But every single one of those things was put there by someone with a lot of intention. And all you need to do is take it one step at a time. When you take the first step, usually the next step appears by itself. So if that's the case, then why doesn't everybody do this? Because effort and sacrifice over time is the cost. But the long-term cost is that you sacrifice the future that you want to build towards. Plus, it costs some money for the tools and to set up everything as well. Speaking of which, it costs a lot more than you think to get started. And the margin's usually a lot lower than what you estimate at the start. Like, there's FDA costs, company registration, business name, trademark, barcodes, like website theme, software, trying out the competitor stuff, and if you're a physical product, buying a barcode. Lesson 3 is don't select a product that you need to make by hand and you need to sell at least a couple of hundred to thousands of units to actually be successful, especially if you don't have any leverage like machinery. It's better to be supply constrained rather than demand constrained, which means you can't make enough stock to keep up with demand instead of having a lot of stock and trying to force people to buy it. Shipping is a huge expense. It's a big portion of your margins and you should plan accordingly. And most of the time, shipping cost is usually more than what the actual product costs to make. Lesson 6 is that it's a lot easier to ride a wave rather than trying to create a wave. The only reason this product got any sales at all was because people already knew about this type of thing from like the looks maxing trend picking up. As for skill mastery, the hardest part is at the start because you have no idea what you're doing. Like, at the start of trying to figure out how to make gum, it took like 3 to 4 months to actually figure out a good process to start making it. And we could only make like 4 to 5 units per day. But once the basic structure and the process was figured out, the repeatability meant that I could test different variations, and by the end of it, we were making around 15 to 16 units per day. So the more you do something, the more often you do it, the better you get. And the same thing pretty much applies to any skill. Lesson 8 is that you learn more from doing than you do from theory. It's not like this was the first business I've ever done. I've tried dropshipping before and I've done like a few other things as well. But this was like the first one I went fully all out, and this was like a legit business with a custom product. And I've learned more from this business than any other business I've done before. Also, you make more progress when you go pro rather than dabbling in something. Lesson 9 is that action doesn't care about how you feel. Like, there were so many times I didn't want to go downstairs and make gum or didn't have the energy, but I just convinced myself that if I just go downstairs and move my body to take the actions that are required, that's all I have to do. And even when I didn't really feel like it, when I looked back at the end of the day, we still ended up with around the same amount of units that we make otherwise. Like, you can feel however you want. As long as the actions you take move you forward, you will get the result you want. Now let's talk about product. I never really cared about this before, but the niche you choose for your product is really important. The people in this niche were the looks maxing people. And to be honest, it's a really not good niche. You need to have an amazing product. Like, your product is the foundation, and there's no room for shitty products in the world anymore. Also, don't underestimate design. Our design for the Magic Gum pouch is what's responsible for most of our sales. Like, I would say our main competitive advantage was our design. The product itself is what led to repeat purchases and reviews, but if the design wasn't good, people wouldn't have even bought it to begin with. And I can say that because when we had this, people didn't buy it. What it looks like online is a lot more important than what it looks like in real life. So what do you do if you want to verify a supplier from China? So I checked out Import Yeti to see the import and export data of the company and see how active it is. And when you talk to multiple suppliers selling the same product, you can kind of tell which one's the best out of them. And usually it's the one with the best communication. And if you make a product that needs a pouch, get 120 micron pouches instead of 100. It's a lot more premium feeling. And it only costs like $50-ish more for 1,000. Having a good product doesn't mean that you get sales. It doesn't matter how good your product is if it can't get a single sale. Your distribution strategy, I would say, is a lot more important. Like eventually product is what decides if you're successful or not. So product is what develops your reputation and if people buy again. But in the start, since you have no customers and you have no reputation, you need to figure out your distribution strategy as well. People need to believe that your product will work for them before they buy it. So for Magic Gum, this was done by the big ass letters of Jawline Gum. The social proof also matters a lot. So I've done drop shipping before, and in drop shipping, someone buys your product, then you buy it from a supplier and you send it to them. So you pay your cost of goods after the sale. But with Magic Gum or any other physical product that you have to buy in bulk, you have to pay your cogs at the start, and you have to save up enough to buy them for next time. So your cogs are pretty much double. And your profit margin isn't just your revenue minus cogs. There's so many other expenses that have to come out of it as well, like shipping costs, platform fees, taxes, GST, fulfillment fees, currency conversion, marketing, paying your people enough money so they can buy protein bars called Masashi Crisp, which is the best one, and pretty much anything else you need to run the business. Like in general, the actual cost of the product itself isn't that high, and it's usually around 10% of the total price. But the other expenses are to make sure the product gets to the customer and making sure the business stays alive and can pay for itself. It's a lot easier to increase your profit by reducing your costs, and it's permanent. Sure, you can increase your price, but usually the amount of units you sell also goes down as well. So if I decide to have another product in the future, these are all the things that I'd like it to have. So for pricing, it should sell for around $40 Australian or $30 USD. And not really any lower. It should have around 70% gross margins and 58% net margins. And the scaling ratio should be greater than 3. And this means for every sale, you can fund 3 more units. Also, it should have viral potential. And you can make entertainment-based content around it. And it doesn't rely on affiliates or other people to make content. Also, there should be like a visual component to the product or result it gives so that it's easy to see. Like for example, the Ninja Creamy. You can make stuff with it and show the result. Like with Magic Gum, what are you meant to show? Yourself chewing the gum? Ideally, it'd have like an unbelievable demonstration, like how the founders of elevators cut the cord to show that they were safe, or Stanley Cup surviving a car on fire. It should have potential to go viral on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, and the value prop should be instantly understandable, ideally in the first frame of the TikTok. Repeat purchasability. So the repeat purchase rate for Magic Gum was pretty good, and some people were even buying it many times, but there's just not enough sales volume. It should be lightweight, so the shipping costs are low, and it shouldn't be like heavy and low priced. So an example of that would be pans. It should have high perceived value in like a high category, and it shouldn't be in a category that's perceived as low value or a commodity, like chewing gum is now. And it can't be the only product that's highly priced. So Magic Gum was considered expensive since people were comparing it to $3 chewing gum. It shouldn't be anything like those slushy cups you freeze and squeeze. It should actually solve a high value problem. And it's something people want and not just a gadget. There should be demand for the product or category, and people don't need to be educated about the benefits. And most likely there should be 1 or 2 competitors that are getting more than 500 to 1,000 sales at least. There should be a manufacturer available, and you won't have to make the product with your hands anymore. Minimal competitors and low brand priority. So ideally there would only be like 1 or 2 competitors and less than 5 or 7. And none of them should have like a really strong brand. There should also be a way you can stand out against the competitors. So an example could be price, it could be cheaper. So if there's only like a high price competitor, you could introduce a mid-price product. Ideally, you wouldn't compete on price. Quantity, you could give more quantity at a similar price. Branding, you can make the branding or packaging better. Or you could offer slightly different versions. Like you could add more useful ingredients, have different product formulas, or even flavors. It should be in a growing market, and the main focus should be Amazon USA. The trademark should be available, and it shouldn't be a commodity, especially not a low price one. Like an example of that would be charcoal face masks. There's obviously a lot of successful products that don't follow these requirements, but for me personally, I would rather have them than not. So next time, I'd probably pick something with a better opportunity vehicle. Like creatine gummies is a lot better opportunity vehicle than Jawline gum. So that's everything I've learned from this business. And here's why I'm stopping. The main reason is that the sales just aren't high enough, and the escape velocity isn't there. So the business isn't really worth the time and effort it takes. We've also worked on this long enough now, and it's not really worth pursuing. Like the peak for Australia was around 113-ish sales per month, and for USA it was around 43. That just isn't enough to justify working on this business. I also tried Amazon ads for like a month and a half, and all I got from that was like a $500 bill and only like 12 sales, which I ended up losing money on, and I had to cover from the sales from Australia. So the best case scenario is around 120 sales per month. If you make $25 profit for each unit, that's still only $3,000 per month, and that's just not enough. Sure, there's a bunch of repeat orders and that should build up over time, but I'd rather not spend the rest of my life making gum. And you know what's worse than something that fails completely? Something that kinda works but is really enough to change your life. The mediocre middle. And if I keep working on this, I'm sacrificing a potential future that I could have doing something else. Like, I would rather have a 10% chance at something that's 1,000 out of 100 rather than having a 100% chance continuing this 10 out of 100 opportunity. It's also a commodity. Like, everything eventually is, but it's just stupid to continue making a commodity with your hands when you have no leverage. And it would take like tens of thousands of units to be successful, and we physically cannot make that many. Also, the earning potential is kinda capped, since we can't really make more than 15 to 16 in a day. First, the plan was to buy machines and increase that, but that doesn't seem worth it anymore. I also stuck with this for long enough since I didn't want the reason this didn't work to be that I didn't work on it for enough time. Also, the type of career you pick has a strong influence on the type of person you actually become. I call this the real estate agent effect, based on how my sister noticed that a lot of the real estate agents all talk and walk the same way and have like a similar style and personality type. Like, then I think about this for other things and it's kind of true. And I've also noticed this with doctors as well. A lot of them have a similar personality type and way of thinking. And now let's talk about the Stanford prison experiment. Pretty much everyone points out how cruel the guards became and how all the prisoners became victims and how it was such a sick experiment and it was unethical and very bad and everything. But if you think about it, that means if you put yourself in an environment where you have to act like a certain character type, you become more like how you think the character should be. So, opportunity cost. If I want to replace the income of Magicum, I only need to make $3,000 per month more from something else. And honestly, I just don't want to keep making gum for the rest of my life. That's just not a life I look forward to. And why try to win a game where you don't even like winning? And by winning, you have to do more of the thing that you don't like. And winning at this game would mean losing at life. Like, initially I did think we could save up for an extruder and that would make production a lot faster. But if I really want to do that, I would have to save up like 3 months worth of making gum. And then you would have to wait like 6 months for the sales to come in. Then it would take like another 3 to 4 months for the extruder to actually come in after you buy it. And then you would have to make enough to cover that cost and then break even. So it would take like an entire year. And it's just not worth it. And if I think I should just keep working on this since I've already worked the past 2 years on this, that's just a sunk cost fallacy. I'll just end up wasting another year or two on this and get nowhere. I think the real question is, what work are you willing to do every single day? Because if you work on it long enough, most things eventually end up working out. And it's not like you're gonna stop doing the thing after you get a trophy. Like, what are you gonna do after that? Just stare at it for the rest of your life? Obviously not, right? You're gonna keep doing something. So why not pick a game that you actually like?